You know that feeling, right? It usually hits around maybe 4:00 p.m. on a Sunday.
Oh, yeah. The Sunday scaries.
Right, the Sunday scaries. You're sitting there, maybe the game is on in the background, or you're just finishing up some chores, and suddenly you get that pit in your stomach. You just start dreading the alarm clock, and it's like you're caught in this massive internal tug of war.
Yeah, the classic modern dilemma.
Exactly. Because on one side, you have your ambition, you want a career that matters, something strategic, high impact, serious business.
You want to be a player.
Right, you want to be a player. But then on the other side, you just want to live your life. You want to be able to walk the dog at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday if you need to.
Or work from your porch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or just not be chained to a desk under those flickering fluorescent lights for 8 hours straight.
I mean, we are so conditioned to believe that those two things are mutually exclusive. We're told that if you want strategy and high pay, you go to the office. And if you want freedom, well, you drive for a rideshare app or you pick up gig work.
We're basically told to pick a lane. But today, we are diving into a stack of documents that claims you don't actually have to choose.
Which is fascinating.
It is. We are looking at a specific role. It's the portfolio manager at a company called RealtyMulti. And let me tell you, the way they describe this job, it is not what I expected from the real estate world.
No, it really isn't. And I think that's why this deep dive is so interesting today. Because we aren't just looking at a generic job description here.
Right.
We're looking at internal scripts, role breakdowns, strategy insights right from RealtyMulti that essentially outline a totally new way of working.
Yeah, they call it the architecture of autonomy.
The architecture of autonomy. It's a great phrase.
I love that phrase. It sounds really fancy, but when you dig into the text, it's actually very practical.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to unpack how this role balances what they call the stewardship of real estate assets with the total personal freedom of remote work.
And there is a really interesting dynamic we need to address right up front for the listener.
Oh, right. The public versus invitation aspect.
Exactly. Because we are doing a public analysis of this business model. We are dissecting the mechanics of it like we always do on this show. But as I was reading through these sources, specifically those internal podcast scripts between their team members, I realized something. This is essentially a blueprint.
Yeah.
If you are listening to this and you think, hey, that sounds like me, well, this might be more than just an analysis for you. It might actually be an invitation.
That is such a great point. We are analyzing a role that is actively being hired for. We're doing it through the lens of, how does this actually work? But you're right. The psychological profile they're looking for is highly specific.
Very specific. Driven, empathetic, autonomous.
Right. So while we are dissecting the how and the why today, if you find yourself nodding along, pay close attention, because this might be the signal you've been waiting for to jump ship from the traditional grind.
Exactly. Let's treat this as a case study, but also a bit of a mirror for you listening at home.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We have to start with the title itself, portfolio manager.
Right.
Now, to me, that sounds incredibly corporate.
Oh, absolutely.
I picture, spreadsheets, stock tickers, maybe a guy in a Patagonia vest yelling on a phone about basis points.
The classic finance bro image.
Exactly. But the source material paints a totally different picture.
Completely different. In the context of RealtyMulti, a portfolio manager isn't just moving numbers around on a screen. The key word that keeps popping up in the documents, and I actually underline this in my notes, is stewardship.
Stewardship. That feels, heavier.
It does.
More significant than just management.
It is. The sources describe the portfolio manager as a steward of meaningful relationships. Think about the difference there. A manager handles things. They maintain the status quo. But a steward protects and cares for them. They enhance value. You aren't just facilitating transactions. You are guiding real estate collaborators and homeowners toward actual solutions.
The source actually mentions that the goal is to protect properties and simplify lives.
Right.
Which, again, feels very distinct from your typical sales role, where the goal is just, close the deal and move on.
Precisely. If we look at the internal dialogue from the source material, they make a really sharp distinction between facilitating and empowering.
Break that down for me.
Sure. A facilitator just greases the wheels to get a task done. Like, oh, the sink is leaking. I called a plumber. That's facilitating.
Okay.
But an empowerer ensures that the people involved, the homeowners, the collaborators, actually succeed in the long run.
So what does that look like in practice? Give me a concrete example of empowering in real estate.
So instead of just fixing the leak, a steward looks at the history of the property.
Yeah.
They might say to the owner, hey, we've had 3 leaks in 6 months here.
Right, looking at the bigger picture.
Exactly. They say, instead of patching this again, let's look at a capital improvement plan to replace the piping.
Ah, I
It'll
see.
save you money in the long run, stabilize your tenant, and increase the asset value. That is empowerment. You are guiding them to a better financial position, not just reacting to a maintenance ticket.
There was a line in the text that really stuck with me on that note. It said, the goal is to create value that echoes through every interaction.
That is poetic for a job description.
It really is. But it makes sense. If you solve the root problem, the homeowner is happier, the tenant is happier, and the real estate agent you're working with looks like an absolute hero.
Exactly. Think about the stakeholders here. You have homeowners and you have real estate collaborators. As a portfolio manager, you are the bridge.
Right.
You're the one ensuring the homeowner has peace of mind because their asset is being cared for proactively. And for the collaborator, you're removing the friction, making their job easier so they can deliver value to their clients. You're basically a guardian of the entire ecosystem.
A guardian. I like that. It moves the needle from I sell stuff to I protect the asset and the relationship. It gives the role a sense of purpose that I think is just missing in a lot of modern jobs, where you feel like a cog in a machine.
And that purpose is crucial because, as we're about to see, this role requires a lot of self-motivation. You can't be a guardian if you're just clocking in and checking boxes. You have to actually care about the outcome.
Which brings us to the part everyone wants to hear about. The lifestyle.
Logistics of liberty.
The logistics of liberty, because let's be honest, you can have all the purpose in the world, but if you're stuck in traffic on the I-95 for 2 hours a day, that purpose starts to feel pretty heavy.
Very true. And this is where the RealtyMulti model really leans into the future of work. The source material is explicit here. This is a flexibility from home role. But, and this is a huge but, it's not flexibility so you can slack off. It's not, I'm going to watch 3 seasons of a TV show and answer 1 email today.
I think that's a huge misconception people have about remote work. They just assume it means less work.
The source makes a fascinating point on this. It's not about working less. It's about structuring the day around high-impact conversations.
I highlighted that part too, high-impact conversations.
Yeah.
So instead of being forced to sit at a desk from 9 to 5 just to look busy, which we call presenteeism, you structure your day around when you can actually get things done.
It's the death of presenteeism. In this model, because you are remote, you have the autonomy to design your schedule. The source specifically mentions the ability to hold early morning strategy sessions if that suits a collaborator.
Or doing evening check-ins if that's better for a homeowner.
Exactly.
Both happen.
And that benefits everyone.
Because if I'm a real estate collaborator, maybe I'm out showing houses all day. I might actually want to talk to my portfolio manager at 7 p.m.
Right.
And if the manager has the freedom to go to the gym at 2 p.m. and work at 7 p.m., suddenly everyone is perfectly happy.
Precisely. It turns the schedule into a tool rather than a cage. The source material highlights this freedom versus friction dynamic.
Yeah.
You remove the friction of the commute, the rigid office politics, the whole culture of just being seen, and you replace it with the freedom to be present when it actually matters.
There's a really great specific example in the text about being present for family.
Yeah.
You can still be a high-powered strategic partner, but you're physically there.
Right.
You aren't missing dinner. You aren't missing the school run. You're integrating the work into your life rather than squeezing your life into the margins of your work.
That's the integration aspect. It's not just work-life balance, which implies they are opposing forces battling for your soul. It's work-life integration.
Right.
You are a professional. You are managing a serious portfolio, specifically mentioned in the regions of New York and Connecticut, which are high-stakes markets, but you are doing it on terms that respect your personal life.
Wait, you mentioned New York and Connecticut. Is this a boots-on-the-ground thing where they are driving around looking at houses? Because if I'm listening to this in Kansas, that's going to be a pretty long commute.
No, and that's the beauty of the tech stack mentioned in the sources. They use a CRM, a customer relationship management system, to stay completely organized.
Okay.
So even though the portfolio is in NY and CT, the manager can be, well, anywhere. The tools bridge the geography.
So I could be in a cabin in the woods or a beach house in Florida as long as I have Wi-Fi managing a portfolio of properties in Manhattan.
Theoretically, yes.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you are driving those high-impact conversations and using the CRM to stay on top of the data, the where matters significantly less than the how.
Got it.
The CRM acts as the central nervous system. You are the brain operating it. and you rely on collaborators on the ground for the physical stuff.
That really is the dream setup. But let's pivot a bit here. We talked about the logistics. I want to talk about the mindset now, because the source material uses a very specific phrase, customer success manager.
Right.
Now, usually I hear that in software companies. Hi, I'm your customer success rep for this app. How does that apply to real estate?
This is a critical psychological shift. In traditional real estate, the mindset is often deeply transactional. I sold the house, goodbye. Or I signed the lease, see ya.
Next deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a customer success mindset is about the long game.
The win-win dynamic they talk about.
Yes. If you view yourself as a customer success manager, your goal isn't just to close a deal. It's to ensure the other person is getting sustained value over time. For the homeowner, that value is proactive care, knowing someone is actively watching out for their investment. And for the collaborator, the real estate pro, the value is unshakable support.
So instead of being a vendor, you become a partner. You become their infrastructure.
Yes. And that builds incredible trust. The source material emphasizes that when you guide a collaborator to a solution that simplifies their process, you aren't just selling to them. You are building loyalty.
You become indispensable.
Exactly. If you make their life easier, they aren't going to go anywhere else.
I can see how that connects back to the remote work aspect we were just talking about. The expert in the source material, I think it was Simon, mentioned that without office distractions, the manager can dive deep.
This is the concept of deep work. It was popularized by Cal Newport, though the source doesn't cite him directly.
Right.
The idea is that in a busy office, you're constantly interrupted by the hey, got a minute culture.
Oh, the worst.
It shatters your focus. But in this remote RealtyMulti setup, you have the quiet and the space to really understand the client's needs. You can analyze the portfolio, think strategically, and offer highly personalized advice.
So you aren't just reacting to fires all day, you're actually preventing them.
That's the proactive part of the stewardship.
Yeah.
And it creates this amazing positive feedback loop. The source describes a cycle where your dedication leads to happy customers.
Right.
Happy customers stick around and refer others. That brings more opportunities directly back to you. It's a self-feeding engine of success.
It sounds incredible. But let's be real for a second. This isn't for everyone. Some people need the office. Some people need the buzz. Some people absolutely need a boss standing over their shoulder telling them exactly what to do next.
You are absolutely right. And the source material is actually very honest about this.
Yeah.
They aren't trying to say this is the universal solution for every single worker. They have a very specific persona in mind.
Let's profile them then. Who is the ideal candidate for a RealtyMulti portfolio manager? If we are looking at this as a recruiting blueprint, who actually fits the mold?
Based on the text, it's two main types, the learner and the self-starter. But honestly, I'd go a step further and say it's for the agency maximalist.
Agency maximalist. I like that term. Break that down.
The self-starter part is obvious. Since you don't have a manager hovering over your desk, you need to be deeply driven. You need to view yourself as a partner in success.
Right.
You have to wake up in the morning and genuinely want to make those calls and solve those problems. If you need external validation every single hour, you will feel completely lost here.
So if you need micromanaging, this is probably a nightmare for you.
Correct. You would flail. But for the learner, this is an absolute goldmine. The source notes that remote work gives space to reflect and innovate.
That's key.
A learner takes that space and uses it to get better. They figure out new ways to use the CRM. They find better ways to communicate with their New York and Connecticut clients. They constantly grow their own expertise.
It's interesting you mention innovation. Usually companies think innovation only happens when everyone is crammed into a conference room with a whiteboard and some stale donuts.
Right, the forced brainstorm.
Yeah. But the source argues that innovation actually happens when you have the space to think.
Real innovation often happens when a smart person is simply left alone to solve a recurring annoyance. Because you're so focused on that customer success aspect, you're hearing the real problems people have. And because you have the autonomy, you can actually devise long-term solutions for them.
It really does sound like an invitation, doesn't it? The source material explicitly encourages people who are driven by impact and who enjoy the freedom of home-based work to see this as a place to shine.
It does. It's framed almost as a challenge. It's saying, look, here are the tools, here is the autonomy, here is a massive portfolio. What can you do with it?
Yeah.
It's basically an entrepreneurial role wrapped in a corporate job description.
And that's a rare thing to find. Usually a job description is just a list of demands. Must have 5 years experience in Excel, must be willing to work weekends.
Must lift 50 pounds.
Right. But this feels much more like, here is a platform, build your career on it.
That's the exact difference between hiring an employee and looking for a partner.
Mm.
And I think that is the secret sauce of RealtyMulti's approach here. They aren't looking for cogs in a machine. They're looking for stewards who want to own their corner of the world.
Entrepreneurs.
Exactly, entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
People who build a business within a business.
So let's bring this all together. We've looked at the role, portfolio manager, but not the boring kind, the steward of relationships kind.
Right.
We've looked at the lifestyle, remote, flexible, but deliberately structured for high-impact conversations. And we've looked at the mindset, customer success, win-win, deep work.
It's a very compelling package. It represents a massive shift from hours logged to value created. And I firmly believe that is the future of the knowledge economy, especially in real estate.
It's funny, we started this deep dive talking about that Sunday night dread, that feeling of just being trapped. And what we've found here in these RealtyMulti documents is essentially an escape hatch, but not an escape from work entirely, an escape from meaningless work.
That is the key distinction. It's not about not working. It's about working in a way that fits your life and actually accomplishes something real. It's about being an adult and being trusted to deliver on your promises.
So here is the soft sell, folks. We usually just analyze these models and move on. But if we have been describing you for the last 15 minutes, if you're the self-starter, the learner, the person who wants to be a steward and not just a salesperson, you might want to take a closer look at this.
We are analyzing their internal strategy today, but the output of that strategy is a very real hiring push. The website mentioned in the source is RealtyMulti.com.
Right.
It might be worth a click if you clearly see yourself in this profile.
It's just a little click.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Okay.
But even if you don't apply, even if you're perfectly happy where you are right now, I think there's a profound lesson here for all of us about how we approach our work.
Absolutely. It raises a really important question for anyone listening, regardless of their specific industry.
Let's hear it.
If you have the tools to work from anywhere, and frankly, most of us do these days, and if your job is to create value, are you currently in a role that lets you define your own success? Or are you just filling a seat until 5 p.m.?
Oof, that is a heavy question to end on. Are you defining your success or just filling a seat?
It's the question that separates the stewards from the employees.
Well, on that note, we are going to leave you to ponder that, maybe stare out the window a bit today. Whether you are in New York, Connecticut, or halfway across the world, thanks for diving deep with us.
It's been a pleasure.
Check out the sources if you're curious, and we will catch you on the next deep dive. Keep learning.